call. But those are risks that I wanted to take because I was looking for marriage, okay, but if you're looking for a job, joining communities, and don't just join any community because I said join communities. Look for communities that are in line with what you're doing. It's as little as that. Hi, my name is so and so. I do this and that. As simple as that. You don't need to write every long story that you need. Finally, imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is one of the reasons why people do not want to be visible. They don't want people to see them because they don't want people to critique their work. They don't want people to talk negatively at them. This is something that you have to grow to know. Some people are able to navigate imposter syndrome because maybe from childhood they've been encouraged to be very vocal. They have confidence, they have courage and all of those things. Whilst others don't have that and they have to build it up. So number one, fighting imposter syndrome, especially when it comes to positioning yourself for opportunities, is to know your worth. Know what you're worth. I don't care if you only write CSS. A lot of people don't know CSS. They have to Google some things. Whether you like it or not, nobody knows everything. But if you know CSS, that's good enough. Write it. If they're talking about front end and anything, call your CSS things that you know. I don't know much about CSS, so I don't have anything to say. But call the things that you know, right? Second is avoid comparison. Comparison is a thief of joy. Yes, you have been here 4 years, somebody else has done 1 year and they have a high-paying job. You're not putting in the same effort. You're not doing the same things. Look for what that person is doing. Do the same and see if it works for you, or find something that works for you. Don't compare yourself. Nobody's journey is the same. My friends and I all started tech together. We're all doing well, but some of us are doing better, some of us are doing okay, some of us are not doing okay. But we are all still together because that is a community we have formed. When one person has an opportunity and is not available, they give the next person. In fact, I'm here because of connection, because of somebody that I know. She was supposed to speak, but she was not available. So she said, I know somebody who is able to speak. You see what my connection and my network can do. The next thing is to seek to learn from experts. I said this earlier on. Don't befriend them. Seek to learn. A lot of people, you want to be their friend. There's no point. To be honest, there's no point. Their clique is already full, right? Learn from them and make up your own clique. That's my own advice for you. Next is start from small spaces. If you feel like big conferences are very hard for you to give talks or even connect with people, start from meetups. I know meetups are a bit smaller. This is a small group, in my opinion. This is a very small group. If we divide you into focus group, you're like 6 groups of 10 people, right? Or that's even less. Start from small groups. It's very important. Practice introducing yourself regularly. Practice introducing yourself regularly. I don't want to attack anybody, so I'm just going to swallow what I wanted to say. But practice introducing yourself regularly. Introduce yourself to the mirror, introduce yourself to the friends. Introduce yourself with confidence. Let people know that you know what you're worth, right? There's a way you would go and apply for a job. They will give it to somebody else because you were not confident enough, right? You were not confident enough. I think I read a tweet when somebody was saying that he wanted to give a job to somebody. So they met at a restaurant and he said, order anything. And I said, no, I don't want. He said, order anything. It was a blank check. He said, no, I don't want. They didn't give the person the job because, why? That person must have thought, oh, I'm being humble, I don't want to eat, blah, 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 blah. They are thinking, the role we are employing you for is a more like customer role. You're going to speak to people. You should be able to go out on dinners and like seal deals. But you cannot even eat. You should have at least had water, right? Be confident. It's not easy, but it's not difficult. It just needs your determination. Practice introducing yourself regularly. I stepped out yesterday. I came back this morning at 5, and I had not made my slide. I made my slide this morning. And after making the slide, I felt like it was not good enough. Honestly, I felt like it was not good enough. I was like, is there any key takeaway here? And then I started to practice the talk. I was talking to myself. I set my ring light, and I was just giving the talk in the house. I gave this talk 3 times in the house. And actually, right now, I'm even saying things that I did not practice then. But because I had said it over and over again, there were new ideas that kept coming up. So practice introducing yourself. Even if you write only front end, introduce yourself that front end will sound like you are a data analyst working in NASA. Write it down. I'm not saying lie, but I'm saying be more confident, because if you lie, your lie will catch up with you when they give you something to do and you can't do it. Last but not least, take advantage of volunteering opportunities. It's very important. There are lots of volunteering opportunities for companies, conferences, even people outside of tech. I've been trying to do more outside of tech things because I'm feeling like my whole circle is very tech related. So I'm going into music. The other day I volunteered as a stage something for a movie, a play. I didn't know anything, but I was helping them to bring props. It was fun for me, right? So like, these are very good opportunities that you can take advantage of. Expand your niche, meet more people, because these opportunities come from different places. Finally, it's never too late to reposition yourself. Please do not, if you ever feel like you are not in the right place, do not consider time spent as a reason not to leave. Oh, I've been here for so long, what will people say? What they are projecting. If they feel like they are not comfortable in their own skin, they project it on you. And you now, you're taking it, you that are supposed to be more confident. So don't let anybody stop you from changing. If you feel like you don't want to be a developer anymore, you want to be a data analyst, please be a data analyst. There's resources for you to do that transition, right? So I'm going to say, it's never too late to reposition yourself. If you've not been doing most of the things that I've been talking about, like posting online, speaking at conferences, hosting workshops, writing articles, you can even start a YouTube channel, right? Like, there's so many things that you can do to position yourself for opportunities. You can join an open source community. You can do so many things, right? Just to get opportunities without having to, lower your standards. So I hope with these few points of mine, I've been able to convince and not confuse you that positioning yourself starts from your decision to position yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victory. We really appreciate that interesting session. Something that stood out to me that she said was, practice, practice, practice. I don't think I practiced enough for my opportunity this morning, but I think for future opportunities I will. And I hope to connect with you, and I hope we all can connect with you on social media. If you're interested in cybersecurity, you can connect with her too. All right, so moving on. Now, I mentioned earlier that yesterday we had a preliminary stage that included, the people that would be participating today, right? They had different questions that they answered within a 5-hour period. And so we have those that advanced to the top 8. Right now, we have the top 6 here physically, while the remaining 2 are virtual participants. So we'll get to know the remaining 2 eventually as we move ahead. But we want to have a little chat with those that are here physically, right? So there are 6 of them. And we have one of our amazing commentators, Sarah, to come interview them. So please, let's give her a round of applause.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah. I'm one of today's commentators. I'd like to invite the top 6 physically present here on stage. You guys can come on the stage now. All right, which they used, their position, as well as their experience yesterday. So I'm going to be starting with, he calls himself IceBeer_16, also known as Joseph. So Joseph, you basically tell us your name, your hacker name, the language you used, your position, and how yesterday was for you.
So the underscore. I just had to take the underscore because of someone already took IceBear16. So I was actually going for ISBS 16, but I couldn't find it. And for my position, right? Yeah, my position yesterday was 7th out of the top 8. The com- so the competition was intense. It was like very intense. So that is my experience from yesterday. I I used C++ for the contest yesterday. Okay, yeah, this is my first time participating in Devsprint.
A round of applause for Joseph. Okay, next up we have Afro T.
Hi everybody, my name is Tim Tope and Afroti on HackerRank. Yesterday was quite interesting because I've not really been familiar with competitive programming, so it was kind of my first time doing something similar. Although I've had like a few lead code contests, but something like this, yeah, it was an interesting experience, and the questions were not easy, but I mean, we tried our best, and I came 5th, and I used Python. Yeah, thank you.
Was yesterday your first time?
It was my first time yesterday.
A round of applause for him. Okay, next up we have Etini.
Hi everyone, my name is Itsni Efyong Robert, and I was 8th yesterday. Yeah. So the experience was actually very interesting. Like, this was my second time participating. I was second position last year. But I would say this year's questions were really, really interesting. I liked them a lot, and I was very challenged. So, but thank God I'm here. I used Python for the contest. That's what I'm most familiar with.
Thank you so much, Etini. Next up, we have Dan for Life, also known as Daniel. So just tell us your name, how yesterday was, your language, and if this is your first time.
Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Emeka Ilozo, and I'm known as Dan for Life on HackerRank. So this was my first Devsprint event. I use C++, and I came first last. Thank you.
Thank you so much. His score was, I think, 1,620 of 1,850. So other contestants, they have a lot to do today. All right, next up we have Idris. So just tell us your name, how yesterday was, your position, and the language you use.
Hi everyone, my name is Idris. So yesterday was a great experience. It was my first time. So I was 5th. I think there were 2 5ths, so I was like the second 5th. So, so it was a great experience. I used C#, so I've been using it for a while now. So, yeah.
Wow. Why were you not the first 5th? All right, next up we have Ukeme. Just tell us your name, how yesterday was, your position, and the language you use.
Hello everyone, my name is Ukeme Edet. I'm known as Ukeme Edet 2207 on HackerRank. Yesterday was a great experience, actually my second dev sprint. Last time I came in 3rd, and this time I came in 2nd on the leaderboard. So I make use of Python and C++ to solve problems. Thank you. Yeah, yesterday was an amazing experience, solving the problems. Like, there was a particular problem that I just managed to get right and propelled me up there. It was very awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask randomly, how do you feel today? Like, based on yesterday's experience, you already saw the kind of problem set you'll be seeing today. So how do you feel right now? Are you nervous? Are you confident? I'm going to be asking 18.
Oh, well, I would say that if you're familiar with competitive programming, you are used to the kind of questions. But for like 9. Yeah. Yeah, yes.
All right, so I'm going to be asking Idris how he's also feeling.
Oh, okay. So today I feel good. I feel great. I'm glad I'm part of the contestant, but this is my first time, so I feel a little bit nervous, but not too nervous because I know we have some smart people among us. So,
All right, so I'm also going to be asking Down for Life, but I'm going to rephrase it. Yesterday you were first. I think the gap between you and the second was like 600 plus. So like, sorry, they're even correcting me, 900 plus. So naturally you should feel confident, but is that how you're feeling? Are you nervous? Do you think, because you're going to be coding in front of everybody, everyone is going to see your screen, right? They are going to see your thought process and everything. So do you have goosebumps? Do you think that's going to affect your performance today?
I think that participating physically in any event is going to naturally give someone goosebumps. And especially when everyone is watching you. So I'm actually not, I won't say I'm like very confident, but I'm just like pumped up to like participate.
That's very nice. Okay, so I have a question for Afro-T. I was having a conversation with Afro-T today, and somebody called him a lead code programmer. Well, this is a competitive programming contest, so there's a difference. So as a lead code programmer, in quotes, this is like your first competitive programming experience, right? How do you feel? Like, is there a difference? Like, how do you feel?
I'm going to say, first off, I'm grateful because competitive programming and just normal data structures and algorithms are very different things. I mean, I realized that like the day before, and I actually tweeted it. So coming in, and I was just coming like, okay, I just want to see how well I know these things. Although I know that it's a different ballgame entirely when you're doing competitive programming. So the fact that I was able to at
Yeah, it's been long. It's been long since I've coded, so I'm still getting that adrenaline rush. Yeah.
A round of applause for him. So my last question is going to be directed at Ukeme. So as Ukeme said, he was third last year, but there was growth, there was progress, there was grinding, and he's now second. So how do you feel? Like, you've made so much progress from last year to this year. How do you feel like revealing that to everybody, like letting everybody see like your thought process? How do you feel competing against, smart people here? Like, do you think you're going to be nervous and probably forget something? Or just let us know how you feel.
All right. Well, looking behind, considering the growth that I've made so far, I would say it's actually an awesome experience. But looking forward, I'm actually excited at the possibility of even getting way better than I am right now. Because looking ahead, I see people ahead of me, people I look up to. So there's this excitement that I can be like them one day. Well, coding in this competition with everybody watching, well, it's bound to hit some nerves, but hopefully I'll be able to compose and cope with it. Thank you.
He's going to maintain steeze and composure. All right. Before we go on, does anyone have any question for any of them? Like, does anyone do?
In solving your questions. Could you guys hear me?
Check.
Okay, so who would like to answer that question? His question is, how has your experience with solving old questions influenced how you solve questions now? And if maths is a criteria,
It's not something you can come up with in the moment. You have to have experience, you have to have practiced. Like I would say, a lot of people math.
a round of applause for him. That's amazing. So if you are okay, please tell us your name, maybe your IG handle as well, so that we can connect with you.
All right. My name is Emmanuel. So my question for them is, I discovered that most of them used languages like C++, C Sharp, and the rest. So I wanted to ask, why did none of you use like JavaScript, Node?
Okay, okay, the person that got 9 uses Rust. So Rust isn't really popular in terms of competitive programming. And then for him to get 9 is like, the language is good enough. So I don't think it cares. It depends on the language used.
All right, a round of applause for Joseph. So he basically said that the language doesn't matter. Just know the language and you'll be good to go. Okay, does anyone else have any question? Anyone else? It doesn't have to be programming related. Maybe you want to know a fun fact about them. I heard something yesterday. And yeah. Does anyone have any question? Okay, gone. Okay, so to end this round, I'm just going to ask each of them to tell us a fun fact about themselves. Like, outside competitive programming, what else do you do? Or you're just, on your laptop from morning to night, or all you do is sleep, code, eat, repeat. All right, so just tell us a fun fact about you.
I'm a 3D artist.
Okay.
I'm a drummer and I also love to cook.
Ladies, husband material right here.
I say I love the French language, so I practice French.
Are you serious? Je m'appelle, sorry. And how do they say what is your name in French? Sorry. Comment tu t'appelles?
Je m'appelle Etienne.
Wow. Duolingo, Abby. Duolingo, like that's where. Wow, that's nice. A round of applause for him. Say the fun fact that I want you to say, please.
I'm actually a gap year student, and okay, I'm currently not in university. I'm 18. I've been coding for 7 years.
You guys, at 11 years old, right, I think I was entering GS1. To be honest, like, that was GS1, GS2. Like, you don't understand. You don't understand. I was struggling with basic science. A round of applause for him.
So for now, basically what I do is just code. That's what I do.
He's this generation's tech bro. All he does is sleep, code, eat. Or how does he go, sorry? Sleep, eat, code. This shirt was designed for people like you. A round of applause for him.
Oh, I don't really do much except from coding. Like in my free time, sometimes I read books or I'm watching anime.
All these anime fans. Do all of you watch anime? Are you serious? I thought it was like a tech bro thing. No, for real. I really thought anime was a tech bro thing. It's not. That's weird. Times are changing. What are tech bros into now? Are you serious? I'm a fan of K-drama too. Were you saying the truth or you were just pulling my legs? He's pulling my legs, so K-drama is not a thing. Okay. I hope it will be soon. That way I'll be able to snatch one for myself. At least we'll have something to talk about. We'll bond over Mr. Queen or Vincenzo, Anyways, a round of applause for all of them. The contest will be starting very soon, and I can't wait to see them grind and sweat. Thank you so much, guys. I think we can.
So that was very interesting. Thank you, Sarah, for giving us like an introduction or a background to the different contestants that we have. I guess we know them now, and we know what they like and perhaps what they don't like. So when we see them contesting and you see some of them sweating difficultly, you know that, okay, something is really going on there. So next on our agenda is games, just to keep you guys, or to say our apologies, sort of. We want to get everywhere lively a bit. And there are prizes to be won. we have a swag, like we mentioned earlier. So we're doing this very common game, two truths and a lie. Anyone familiar with that? Raise up hands if you know what two truths and a lie is. Okay, just one person. Interesting. Okay, two people. So basically, the thing is, you're going to come up here. I'll pick some people at random. And you come up here, you tell us three facts in general. Two of them have to be true, and then one of them is a lie. And we have to figure out what the lie is. So, at random, I'm going to be doing very randomized picking. So, if you hide your face, it's not going to work. I will find you, and I will call you. That lady that is there that is smiling very nicely. Hi, I love your afro, by the way. Please come up on stage. Please, round of applause. Let's get it going. Thank you. I want to meet you. I want to know about you. Three facts. Two of them are true. One of them is a lie. Let's give her time to think. As we're clapping for her, let her be, she's thinking, please. Let's energize her a bit. It's not easy to come on stage, please. Like, let's clap for her. It's not easy at all. It's not easy. You look really good, by the way. I love your outfit. What's your name and the three facts? Okay. Mike.
Hi, everyone. So I am Uchechi. Okay. So I am a model. I am a Muslim. A Muslim.
Okay, so that's the first fact. First fact is you're a model. The second is you're a Muslim.
Yeah.
And what's the third one?
So which is lie or how? Yeah.
So she has given us her three facts. The first is that she's a model. Second is that she's a Muslim. And then the third is that she's a front-end developer. So, what do you guys think? Which one of them is correct? Which of them is a lie, actually, I should say? A Muslim? Any other responses? Front-end? You said? The first one? Okay, the first one that she's a model. Okay, that's interesting. Any other one? What do you think? Front-end developer. Okay. But most people are leaning towards Muslim, right? Okay. So tell us, what is the lie?
I am a Muslim.
Okay. Forgive me for saying, but that was quite obvious. Okay. So let's do one last person and then move on to the next thing. This time around is a guy. First, let me give you the opportunity to raise up your hand. Who wants to go? Give us something to think about very deeply. Anyone? Okay. Forward, come over. A round of applause, please. Next generation of developers wearing face masks. Okay, come on. Hack Sultan in the making. Okay. Yeah. Introduce yourself and three facts.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Fuad Alifatik. I'm a student at the University of Lagos. Yeah. Okay, facts. Number one, I'm the life of a party. Number
Life
two,
of the party is first fact, okay? Second.
I'm unemployed.
You're unemployed. And what's the third fact?
Okay, third fact.
Why are you guys all thinking about the third fact? Like, why is that something that you have to think about?
No, it has to be something you think about.
Okay, it has to be something you think
The
about.
first one was too easy.
Gotten it.
I love engineering.
You love engineering. I can tell you now which one of them is the lie. All right, so you have the three facts. The first one, life of the party. Second one, he's unemployed. And the third one is that he loves engineering. What is the lie? Loves engineering, Abi. Unemployed. Okay, you feel like he's lying about being unemployed. Any other one? Anybody going for the first? Life of the party. Life of the party. Just one person, just you. Okay, you guys believe it's life of the party. Okay. But who are we, like what point are we more tending to? That is the unemployed or...
Wait, can I like rephrase the second one? I think yes. Okay, I will not say okay. I'm job hunting. Yes, let me say that. Okay, yeah. The first one, yes, I'm the life of a party. Second one, I'm job hunting. Third one, I love engineering.
So which one are we going for? Sorry, did you rephrase the second one? What's the second one?
Yeah, I said first one, I'm the life of a party. Second, I'm job hunting.
Job hunting.
Yes, third one.
Why now? Why?
I love engineering.
Third one, I love engineering. Okay, so he has changed the facts now. So which one do we believe is a lie? Love engineering. The second one. The first one. You said? Technically unemployed. The second one. Okay, all right. So tell us, what is the lie?
The lie. I'm the life of party. I can never be the
So
life of
you
a
love
party.
engineering. Interesting. You love engineering. Okay. Wow. Okay. And you're employed.
I'm employed, but I'm still job hunting.
Okay. How does that work? Employed. Okay. So you want to change your...
Basically.
Okay. That's why you changed the second one, I think.
Yes.
Makes sense. All right, round of applause for him. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Fuad. Okay, I think we can take one more person. All right, so another person. Who would like to volunteer? Or should I pick another person at random? I feel bad for picking that lady at random now. Who would like to volunteer? Anyone? Okay, he wants to volunteer. The person is pointing at you. You that you're pointing at that person. Yeah, please come out. Thank you. No, you can come out. No, thank you. I really, really appreciate your... Yes, please. Thank you for pointing at him. Please, let's clap at him. He's wearing glasses over there. Thank you. Yeah, nice to meet you, by the way. Round of applause, please. It's not easy to come to stage. Tech bro. You said? Oh, you're in a meeting. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They understand.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So please introduce yourself and then.
Okay. Pius Ebenezer. Pius Ebenezer.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm in math and math engineering. So let me see. 2 truths, 1 lie. 2 truths. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
You're meant to tell us 3 random facts,
yeah,
and we have to
random
piece
facts.
it together.
Okay. I hate C#.
Okay. First fact, he hates C#.
Okay. Then I love my departmental courses.
Second fact, he loves departmental courses. And
then I also love cooking.
You love cooking?
Yeah.
All right. What is the lie? The second one, he loves his departmental courses. Any other options? The first one, what was the first one again?
I hate C#.
Okay, he hates C#. Okay. Any other goes? Which one are we tending more towards? The second one, the third one. You guys are not clear. Like, let's have one house, one answer. Second. All right. Please tell us. What's
Yeah,
the
it's
lie?
the second, obviously.
The second
I
one.
hate my...
Yeah. Thank you for being true to yourself. All right. So math and math is difficult.
No, it's not really difficult, but the lecturers, they have... Yeah.
I think that's a staple with Faculty of Engineering, actually. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Thank you for sacrificing your time. Any other goals? Who would like to try? Actually, people that are coming out, they have stuff. So please meet any one of the attendants over there, and they'll take your names down. Okay, so now you want to go because I said that you have stuff for you, Abby. Please come up. Come up stage. Yeah.
afternoon. Yeah,
What's your name?
my name is Abdullah.
Abdullah.
But the question I would like to ask them is not about me. It's just general questions. It's just
Okay.
the kind of tricky questions.
Tricky questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we doing now? We're still finding out the lie among those.
Yeah.
Okay, the 3 facts you're going to give us, we have to find out the lie. Wonderful. Okay.
So
We're
the
ready for
first
you.
one
No phones. No phones.
is SQL a programming language? That's the first question.
Okay, it's a question, not a fact. Okay, why don't you rephrase it into a fact? Like SQL is a programming language.
Okay, SQL is a programming language. The second one would be beans is made up of more of protein than carbohydrates.
And then what's
The third one would be Lagos is the smallest country in Nigeria. Lagos is the smallest state in Nigeria.
You know what? You know the problem with this now, yeah? They have phones. They have Google, so they will search. But let's see. Okay.
Can you find out the two truths among the and the lie?
The lie. Okay, what's the lie? Number 2, beans is made up of protein more than carbohydrates. Okay.
Is it a truth or lie? The beans question.
A lie. A lie.
Lies,
Okay, what about the
lies.
SQL thing?
What about SQL? Is it a programming language? Or a query language? Is it a programming language?
You've given the answer already.
What about is Lagos the smallest state?
Is Lagos the smallest state?
I say smallest state in Nigeria.
Like, is it land mass or population?
I'm talking about by size.
Okay, by size. Okay.
Yeah. So what's the two facts?
I don't know the answers to any of those
What are the
questions,
two truths? And what is the lie among them?
Number 1 is the lie. Number 2 is the lie. What about number 3?
Number 1 is the lie, right? The beans one is a lie.
The beans one is number 2 now.
Okay, you guys just is beans made up more of protein or carbohydrates?
Beans, carbohydrates. Okay.
Okay, what about is SQL a programming language or query language?
Query language. You shouldn't have given that option.
Okay, that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Please, let's clap for him. He brought a very interesting twist to the whole game. That's nice. Thank you. All right. So, next thing it is you in a bit to form more communication and connections with that person. Then you'd make a tweet. You tag GC Unilag, that's our username. GCE, that's capital letters, Unilag. And then IEEE_Unilag. That is IEEE_Unilag. Whoever has the highest number of likes or retweets. Please, let's clap for him. Those are no claps, so. The first one, the last one. Okay, what about the second one? Nobody's saying the second one. Which one now? One house, one response. First or last? Last. What about the first? Okay. Can you see the faith and the confidence they have in you?
Okay, I have this innocent look, so I look like a man of God, so they won't know.
Let's clap for him, I beg.
Okay, the lie there is the third one. Thank you very much.
So you are a womanizer. Don't judge a book by its cover, you guys. Don't judge a book by its cover. All right, so next on our agenda is a small talk with one of our GCE leads, that's our GitHub Campus Experts leads, and that is Olayinka Tobiloye. So please, let's give her a round of applause. She's one of the forces behind this event. It's not easy. Like, if you've been seeing her around, you know the stress, the energy, everything that's been going on. She's very stressed out right now, but we are excited. So please, let's give her a round of applause. Let's show her that we appreciate her. Please, please, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. Come on now, more energy, more claps. Some people are not clapping here, oh, please. All right.
Hey guys. Are you guys not excited to see me? Hi everyone. So as a manner of introduction, my name is Olayinka Tobiloye. So thank you so much. Oh, thank you. I'm a 500 level student of computer engineering in the University of Lagos. So a little bit of like a backstory. So when I was in secondary school, don't worry, I did not code in secondary school. This is not one of those stories. When I was in secondary school, my final year, when I was trying to decide what to study, I kind of like stumbled upon programming. So like prior to then, I'd be like using sites like Google, Neuralink, and I was so curious. I was like, Google's online and stuff. I found out about programming. And then from there, I decided to study computer engineering because I felt like they would teach me how to code and how to build Google. So imagine my surprise when I got to uni and I found out that, oh, not exactly, you know? So, and then like first year, you find out that you're actually doing like more of like maths, more physics and stuff, especially in your first year. So it was just like a bit disappointing, but not for long because I found out about like communities on campus. So I joined like GDSC, for example, and I used to go for like some of their study groups and classes, and that was how I actually like started programming, right? So you guys should ignore, we're trying to set up like this screen for the coders to actually, for you to actually see their screen while they're coding. So pardon us why this is going on. But yeah, I joined those communities and I started to learn how to code. And it was really exciting. And I was learning. But the only issue that I had then was like, I really, really wanted to go for like physical hackathons. I wanted like an opportunity to, because I used to see online, right? I used to see like maybe especially maybe unis in India, in US, like just see them like going for physical hackathons, forming teams and doing exciting stuff. And I never saw anything like that, right? So the only thing that we ever saw was like maybe some startup wants people to like use their API and they host like this kind of like virtual hackathon for people to compete. So we never really saw anything like physical hackathon for people to come and compete, right? And luckily around the same time, like I started like learning more about like data structures and algorithms. I started like hearing the stories of people like using data structures and algorithms to land like opportunities, et cetera, all of that good stuff. So it kind of like just like when I got the opportunity to now actually finally lead these communities that I've benefited a lot from, like I started thinking of, okay, how can I actually give back? How can I actually contribute to those communities? And that was what bettered the idea of Devsprint, right? So then I started like doing data structures and algorithms, started applying for internships, secured a couple, and it was like, okay, so I know this thing is exciting. I know that there's a competition around this thing. I know that there are people in Nigeria who are very, very good at this thing, right? Because I've met them and they've really been super helpful to me. So how can we kind of like bring these two things together? I want like physical hackathons, but I also really love data structures and algorithms. And I know there are so many people in Nigeria that are so really good at it, but they don't get the opportunity to actually, you know, show the world that they are good at it. And that was what bettered the idea of Devsprint. So I came together with like all of my team, super amazing, super intelligent, super brilliant people. And we kind of like, we had the first edition last year and the excitement, it turned up and how people basically received it. The reception was amazing. And we were like, okay, this year, how can we make this better? And that was how we went from like a day event that we had last year to the 2-day event that we have today, where you guys can actually, thank you. Thank you so much. Where you guys can actually also come and see and be inspired and actually be motivated to start that journey of data structures and algorithms, yeah, especially for the ladies, because I know like one of the major issues that we had last year, we had this year again, was that we had a very, very, very low percentage of female participants. So I really hope, like, especially for the ladies here today, like as you watch people like compete on stage, you get inspired, you get motivated, and you get started in the essay, and like next year you actually join and you're among the people on stage to actually compete next year. So yeah. So I think like that's all. I just really hope that you guys have a great time. Apologies for this logistics issue, but yeah, I hope you guys have a great time, and thank you so much for being here. Enjoy. For the music. That's very nice music, actually, by the way. So as you can see, we're trying to set up our screens here so we can have, of course, the contest and then the next speaker session. So while we wait for them to finish up what they are doing, we can just have a bit more games. What do you think? I want to make a twist now. I don't know what the name of this game is, but I know it's something where people are supposedly meant to have headphones on, right? And so you're trying to whisper a certain word, with the headphones on, all of them, they have their headphones on, and then you're trying to whisper that word. And so the word has to pass through like 5 people before it gets to the very end, and then you figure out, okay, what's this person trying to say, right? I think, do you know what the game name is? I don't really know what it is, but I think we can have a twist on that. Since we don't have any headphones right now, what we can What is your obsession with this guy? Why do you keep on pointing at him? All right, so I think he really wants you to come on stage, so please come on stage. You're our first volunteer. Okay, please, let's clap for him. You can also come up, Sarah. Yes. Final person, who would like to volunteer? Okay, Samuel, since they watch you. Okay, hi Joshua, you can come on stage.
never know, see them all cast up. God damn, so far, them by jet lag. Yeah, you never know.
Baby, you know that I'm in a joke, baby, you know that I'm in a joke. Angelina, you be cool in my temperature. If you call, I go come deliver. I no go fall in your hand never. So now me you go love forever. I'm a cocky no feeble letter. I'm a Angelina, I'm a Angelina. Me all down. Anytime we see you for the club and the television, your body. So you know no say the thing when you carry 50 kilos somebody. You know I feel a vibe, so baby why the party? Yeah. And I know you shy, but it's cool when we're making love. On the low, on the low, on the low, on the low, on the low. Sing that. Why you want to the dressing on me like I need that? I'm tryna put the ring on your finger too. And be a better guy, be a better guy. On the low, 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 on the low.
So what word do you think he's trying to tell you? Clothes. What did I tell you? I mean, I know.
Chameleon.
Why am I obsessed with animals? I have no idea. You know what? I'll give you another thing. Okay, so final round now. So you are going to be here. He will be in the middle, and then Joshua will be over there. All right. I'm sorry. Now let me think. Okay, now please, no words. I realize that whispering is confusion. So like, no words, just purely body language. I gave them a very easy word this time around.
Cycling.
And what did I tell you?
Okay, bicycle.
You guys are technically correct. All right. So, yeah. Thank you. Please, a round of applause for them.
Another banger.
Once more. Thank you, Mr. DJ. Once more, a round of applause for those three participants. If you are coming up stage and you're participating, please don't go without collecting your swag. You've done something enough by coming up on stage. So now we move on to our next speaker session, and that is a session on cracking the technical interview, strategies for success and standing out. Actually, is our keynote speaker. The theme again is cracking the technical interview, strategies for success and standing out. You know the usual. A round of applause as we're introducing this person on stage. So please, energy, E for energy. This person speaking is Emmanuel Bakare, and he is a senior DevOps engineer at Twilio. He previously worked with GDG, that is Google Developer Groups, for 3 years as a manager and organizer for the Unilag and Lagos campus, along with the Google Cloud community. He's happily invested in being a sweet boy and introduces himself as your friendly neighborhood Batman. Not Batman, no, Batman. Okay, please, let's introduce Emmanuel Bakare.
Why you want the boogan? You be kiss and you better drop your body and suck up. Suffer with this body.
Hey guys, how's it going? Big crowd. Yeah, so my name is Emmanuel Bakare, but everyone calls me Backman. I graduated some 5 years ago, so it's been quite a while. Before graduating, I did a lot of stuff, mostly. So I, Ikpaya, and Hope started GDG Unilag, which is now GDSC Unilag. So it's been amazing to see how that community has kind of like grown over the years from being like 20 plus people. I kid you not, we had a classroom in electrical engineering, just like 20 plus people, our first meetup. And now like it's grown to organizing its own Dev Fest. I mean, like that's amazing growth. And so to kind of like speed it off, today I'll mostly be walking through the cracking the technical interview, strategies for success and standing out. The one part I'm going to state from past experience is that technical interviews are surprisingly less about the technicals, which might sound a bit awkward, but that's what I'm just going to do today, because the topic is on success and standing out. And when you want to succeed in a technical interview, the lead code part is getting your foot in the door, and actually then leading all the way to succeeding in the interview would be a lot less about that I can tell you for sure. In terms of like my past backgrounds in technical interviews and my success rates, I've gotten offers to Apple, I've gotten offers to Goldman, I've gotten offers to VMware. I've worked at Twilio, I've worked at AWS, I nearly worked at Google. Like, I've had my fair share of successes all around. I've worked at a lot of startups. Some have been acquired by Cisco. I've had a pretty long background in working at companies, getting into companies. The shortest interview I've ever had was a week at VMware. I met up with the director. And I can tell you for sure that the only reason why I got that fine interview wasn't because I interviewed. It was because it was like on the call, hey, we have this technical assessment. And I was like, oh, I've done something before. And then I sent him the link on the Zoom call. And it was like, you know what? Let's not do the interview. Like, I'm starting this off because I want to showcase what technical interviews are like. I got to the technical interview, and the dude I was supposed to interview with was telling me about how his dad is a policeman and how he walks his dog every Friday or every day. I can't really remember. And 10 minutes in, I'm like, oh, are we not having the technical interview? And it's like, oh, we already did that this is just on the book so that we can say you did your technical interview. So the summary of that story is that technical interviews or interviews themselves, scratching out the technical, don't really start off when you get to doing the lead code. A lot of times, the lead code that you do when you're having a technical interview is just a screening. The company is looking for one person, or maybe two if you're lucky. When I applied at Twilio, they weren't even hiring for a senior DevOps engineer. They were hiring for a DevOps engineer. But I did so well in the interview that they just created a new role, and they just put me in there. I kid you not, they had already hired a senior DevOps engineer. And the second reason why that worked out was because when I met with the director, I didn't start off with the technicals. I started off with, what are your biggest problems in the organization? And that became the technical interview. He was like, hey, we're looking to scale up our Kubernetes team. We're looking to get more people involved in Kubernetes. And I was like, yeah, I've worked with this. Here's a project I've worked on. And all those kind of things are what I'm going to share with you today. How to actually stand out in an interview using the technical experience you have, right? Because again, everyone here can do lead code. The question is, can everyone do lead code and the job? That's a completely different skill set. Now, to kind of like set the standards up, I'm going to start off with the key part for every technical interview, and that's your perception. Perception is reality. Right? We've all had friends who, you know, aren't as technically skilled, but they're getting offers left and right, and you wonder how. The thing is that when you start a technical interview, your first key step is to improve that perception of yourself. Like now, if I were starting this call technically, I could have gone and showed you O of 1, O of N, you know, I could have told you about whatever algorithm I wanted to write, how I used to go for math Olympiads when I was in Unilag, or whatever stuff kind of like bears the boat there. But that's just one part of the job. That gets your foot in the door. It doesn't keep you in there, right? Being in the room is a different case. And that perception of yourself when you start the interview is kind of what carries you there. So that's going to be our keynote here. Perception is reality. How you communicate those technical steps is how you keep going forward. And then let's kind of start it off with, how do you improve perception during an interview, right? Usually, it starts off with understanding what kind of interview you're doing. Now, when you're doing technical interviews, you're never really in all of them at once. If you're doing like a whiteboarding session, or you're doing like a lead code, please go out. Like, I can't definitely explain how to succeed writing code. Everyone here knows you're never going to become an overnight success. If not, I'll be selling you a course on TikTok, and I'll be getting rich off you. There's nothing like that. So the thing about interviews is understanding what interview you're doing. If it's a whiteboarding session, we'll get into systems design, and I'll talk about that later on. If you're going to be doing a phone screen, or you're going to be doing a live behavioral technical session, because not all technical interviews are about the technicals. I could come up and ask, say, someone over there like, hey, what is the most difficult solution you've had to implement that involved the writing algorithms or all of that? Now, that is a technical interview, but it's a behavioral technical interview. It takes you out of writing code to actually then talking about what you wrote, the impact of the work you did, and how that work made the lives of others better for you. Now, that's not about writing code, but it does involve writing code, but it involves you writing code that is fitted for the problem statements. And that's where you then get into things like, oh, using the STAR approach. And basically, if you've done impactful work, describing it is kind of like the easy part, right? You get, because, again, I mean, you know, People can tell. So that's the first step in the technical interview process, understanding what interview you're doing. If it's a phone screen, if it's a live behavioral session, skip all the O of one, O of N's. Trust me, people already know that. Your interviewers are very smart. They know what you're doing. If you say, oh, that when I was in Replex, I built some, and this is actually a live project I had on GitHub, by the way. I built something that could auto-generate documentation for Express projects. I used topological sorts. I used whatever stuff to kind of like, do the graph so that, you can automatically do that generation process and patch everything together. And the person is like, okay, you did all of that. What was the impact of it? I might go, hey, we had the customer was Apple. They had issues with our documentation. Building that saved us hundreds of developer hours because of the fact that it involved people making requests to generate the documentation. We ended up writing more tests because now people were like, oh, making the requests and writing mocks for the test generates the documentation. And we improved our code coverage as a result of that. Now, I didn't talk about any of the technical stuff, but you can already see the outcome of it. And that's the first step when you then go from understanding the interview to understanding the content for the interview. Now, that puts you a step forward. That's how you communicate more proactively. So, moving back, right, that's the kind of part I'm trying to start off here, is that technical interviews are less about the technicals. And trust me, you will, I will note examples time and time again of where I have made mistakes in interviews, some of the good things I've done, and they will not get to putting all this information together. So, roundhousing it, we've talked about technical interviews, we've talked about understanding technical interviews. Some of you can take notes if you want. Understanding technical interviews, understanding the type of interview you're doing. You've then gone to communicating impact during the technical interview. And then the next bit, right, is then understanding how to communicate during a technical interview. So, has any of us ever interviewed for a junior role before? Just show of hands if anyone has ever interviewed. Okay, so a couple people. I don't want to put anyone on the stage, but I'd like to ask a simple question, if anyone's willing to come on stage and do that, to just introduce yourself. Yeah, I know some folks on stage are shy. Yeah? Please give him a round of applause. Yes, please do. Stage is all yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, please do.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Oluwagbemiga, and I am a front-end developer. But lately, I've been working more on the back-end aspect. So my experience with interviews, I recently applied for...
Oh, no. Introduce yourself.
Oh, introduce myself.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm a front-end web developer. I've been in the tech space for about 2 years now. And the impact I've had in terms of development spans across the health space, and yeah, that's what I can say.
No, please again, another round of applause. So, you went off on a very good start there, starting with your name, the impact, your role, and the department you've worked in. Now, as an interviewer, for a technical interview, that sets pace for the kind of questions I'm going to ask. For example, I might ask you so how have you seen working in the health space, say, considered to other parts of development? Does your front-end skill work the same? Or are there differences in how you apply those skills? Do you have to add in extra engineering effort to, say, protect personally identifiable information in the healthcare case, in the finance case, various things like that? Now, that's what technical interviews kind of stem from, and it always starts with introducing yourself. Oh, yes, thank you, please. Please, another round of applause for him. Thank you. Huh? Oh, yes, sure, we can have another. Please give him also another round of applause.
Hello everyone, my name is Abdul Rahman and I'm also a front-end engineer. I've been working as a front-end engineer for about 5 years now, and my specialty lies in working at the intersection of design and code. Basically, I help businesses create a memorable experience for their users so that they can enjoy the product they use and also get value from what they build as well.
Okay, thank you. Oh no, no worries. No, please, thank you. Yeah, round of applause for him also. What was your name also?
Abdurrahman.
Abdurrahman. Nice to meet you, Abdurrahman. That was a really great introduction. Yes. And you see from both friends here that they did two things which was really great. They started off with what they do. They started off with their name, of course, you know. The interviewer knows, but sometimes he sets precedence for it. Me, I usually go, my name is Emmanuel Bakare, but everyone calls me Backman. Surprisingly, I've worked at 3 places and they've all called me Backman. It just kind of rhymes, right? And one of the things that, in both their examples, that was missing there is they failed to key in the relationship about themselves. So this is kind of where I'm going to go into the introduction part of every interview, and that is it's a popular thing from Naval, which is productize yourself. I started off with saying that this is strategies for interviews, not technical interviews in general, because technical interviews are interviews at best. It's you trying to impress someone with your skills, with your personality, with your work experience, and also likewise building a relationship with them through that journey. The relationship part is very important. I remember interviewing with Apple, right? And the summary of Apple was, I didn't accept the offer, but they had put me on relocation. It was one of the weirdest things you've ever experienced. They were like, you know what, move to London, and then when you get there, we'll figure out whether you want to work with us or not. Yes, it was a very strange journey. I got the SRA lead's number. He was like, he's going to invite me for dinner at his place. Like, it moved from being oh, you are working a job, to this person was like, I think I just like want to know you as a person. Right, and that's where that productizing yourself starts from. The interview is your first step into the company, but the interview is also your first step outside the company. For example, I got the SRA lead's contact. If I ever need a job at Apple, I'm one call away. Now that starts with the interview, and that's the thing to then separate when you want to stand out. Because again, I'm taking this from the topic. Standing out is less about the technical skills, but more about relationships. When you start an introduction, like I would go, hi, my name is Manu Bakare, everyone calls me Backman. My relevant experiences for Apple is, hey, I've been doing DevOps for like 10 years. I have worked with the Linux Foundation. I have, started up a Linux development bootcamp. It's had over 1,000 people in our attendance. I have had curriculums and courses developed across different spaces. I've worked for companies that have built DevOps tools, that have gone all the way to series. I've built teams. And for me, I am not an active Apple user. I actually did say that I'm a pure Android person. But Apple's ecosystem and their developers' tooling and everything kind of speaks to me. Now, the interviewer might go, oh, why is that? And from there, we go from having a technical interview to just having an interview, right? So that's kind of where you set off the pace, right? Remember I started off with, you set the perception of the interview, then you introduce yourself. I'm kind of pacing it so that it kind of makes sense, like how that process goes. Once you introduce yourself, you expose the interviewer not just to an idea of what your technical skills are, but to an idea of your personality as a person, right? You move past the point of, oh, I'm trying to get a job, so I'm trying to work with you. And those are two different things, right? You become less of a name, but rather a person, right? And then you can then move with that relationship to then either do the interview, have weird things like, oh, I know you didn't get this, but like, I think you can do this. They even start helping you. It's very strange. I don't know how to explain it. But that's kind of what it's like, because then you move from, the interview is, oh, I'm trying to present myself, to, oh, I'm trying to work with this person, right? Because peer programming is a day-to-day thing when you're working with someone. And once you've gone through that process, you can then move on to the interview where you then not have the case where they are judging you on your skill sets, but then they are working with you to then see how far your skill sets can go, right? So that's where I wanted that exercise to kind of go to. In the introduction, they introduced their skill sets, they explained who they were, but they didn't build an idea or a product around their skill sets. Like I would say, my biggest skill set isn't really my technical skills, it's that I can get people to work together. And it sounds strange, but I've had years of it, right? I've done community work, I've volunteered for roles, I've met a load of people, right? Some good, some bad, right? And that's earned me my own fair say in the community. But for me, that then speaks more to the experience. A very good example I can give is VMware. I remember speaking with the director, and he was like, he didn't hire me because I submitted the profile work. They were like, oh, they saw that I did GDG Cloud Lagos work, and for them, they were like, if I could take a step out from my day-to-day job and actually just like work on building a product that was non-technical and actually then bring it out to life, that makes a lot more sense to them than the actual technical skill that I had. They were like, you know what? They don't really need that. They need something a bit more. And that's why I started off with interviews. Technical interviews are less about the technicals. You will find that again and again and again. So we've covered two key parts. Perception is reality, introducing yourself, productizing yourself, and now we've gone on to building relationships. Now the next thing is making an impact. Now that sounds simple, but it's actually quite difficult, which is, how do you explain the work you've done? Now, behavioral interviews are still technical interviews. I'm not going to talk a lot about the whiteboarding system design, because I think we're all really smart people who know how to, do that, right? I mean, we have folks here that have done the hackathon. We all have a community here. Writing code, passing exams, that's all one step of the journey, right? Now, explaining your impact as a person is where things like, they'll say, oh, the STAR approach comes in. Or for people, because I know some of us here were more than technical, so we moved from the junior level roles and we moved to the senior level roles. There's another presentation style called RIKI, which is risk, idea, KPI, investments. And that's a bit more out of touch. But the idea is that once you move from building things to actually then having to explain the impact of the things you've built, they're a bit more vague, right? Like, for example, one of the interviews I had, the person asked me, like, oh, how was my experience working with, like, doing, like, meetups for GDG Unilag when I was an organizer? And I started off with, usually it was less about the organizing, but more about getting the people we're organizing with to, understand why we're organizing it, right? That's the vision of the problem. I would say things like sometimes vendors were unreliable. I would say things like Nigeria would happen and they'll take lights when you're having a session. I would say things like, oh, the hall might be booked the week you're supposed to have the event and they double booked you and they're like, oops, sorry. All these are life stories, by the way. But the idea is that the concept of that is to kind of illustrate things that you might have heard in interviews for yourself. Tell me about a time you had difficulty executing a project, right? Tell me about a time that you had to walk around problems with a difficult colleague. Again, sometimes you don't realize it, but that's where all these things are. Sometimes they might tell you, tell me about the most difficult technical project you've built. Tell me about a time that you had to use your technical skill set to achieve a problem. I can tell you for sure, they're not asking about the technical problem, they're asking about how did you work with the people to achieve that project. And from there, you move from either being a junior developer to a senior developer. Now, that STAR approach is what I just used here, right? The situation was all the things I explained, vendors were this, vendors were that. I could then go into the task and be like, oh yeah, like while working through that problem, right, I had to coordinate with the co-leads, I had to like plan around alternate venues in the future. We would have these lessons, we would write them down in documents, we would have backup plans, we had handover notes for volunteers because, some folks came around, some folks left. We wanted to have a training program for this. We would set up hiring pipelines to get people more involved, things like that, right? So the idea is that before you get to the interview, like what I'm trying to say is that that impact idea is what you should have in place. You don't go into an interview in your first step and be like, yes, I built, you can see where I'm going. You have an idea of everything you've done, and you put that down in paper. The interview doesn't start before you start the interview. Rather, it doesn't start when you're interviewed. It starts way before, right? So that preparation model is what you put down today. And I'm kind of rehousing that back to the two people who gave introductions, right? They spoke about the things they've done. The impact of the things they've done wasn't really there, right? You work in so department, but what are the things you've done whilst being in so department? Because we've all done impactful things. How you articulate it is where the impact comes from. So you can use the STAR approach for that, right? So it's kind of bring it all together. We've talked about your perception during the interview. We've talked about introducing yourself. We've talked about productizing yourself, building relationships, explaining impact, which is a lot harder than it looks. If I built an algorithm visualizer for merge sorts, the next question is, what did you do with that? You might say, oh, I put it on Twitter. I got 1,000 people looking at it. What did I learn from that experience? Maybe I've discovered a sales technique. Maybe I can actually build products and sell them on Twitter, right? That goes from having technical skills to having a business mindset. Again, all these things exemplify your technical skills, which is why I said interviews are less about the technicals, especially for technical interviews. So we've gone through all of that. I've explained the STAR approach for explaining your impact, which is the situation, task, action, and result. It's a lot easier than it sounds. And I will kind of be moving over to the last, sorry, just trying to put my slides back on. So let me then round off with two other things that I have prepped here. So, let me also explain Ricky. Because a lot of us know the STAR approach, but we've never heard of the Ricky approach. The Ricky approach, I guess, is for people that are more technically suited, right? You've gone past that, oh, I need to prove myself technically, to I have a stable technical base, and I'm looking to grow my experience from being an individual contributor to building more impressive things, right? Once you go into like that mid-level senior part, because I'm sure some of us are more than technically gifted. And for some of us, we've heard of folks that are like really, really good at like lead code and all these other things, but they're struggling so hard to get any role above a junior developer role or a grad role. The reason is how you communicate your impact. Once you move from being a junior developer to being an intermediate or senior person in any company, you're kind of not expected to do a lot of technical stuff, right? Like personally, when I started Twilio, one of the growth areas I found was I was extremely technically gifted, but I knew nothing about the business. Like nothing. I didn't know how they made money. I just knew that I came to work, I wrote fancy code, and I closed my laptop, and everyone was like, wow. But it ended there, right? And I'm saying this as an extra thing because some of us, we do technical interviews with the idea that we're building for ourselves, but we're really building for people. And once you take a step back, the STAR approach doesn't convey that impact anymore because now you're dealing with a lot of ambiguous things. Like now, if I came up to you and I asked you, oh, the company is looking to build a new service that hosts images globally, and we're looking to set up different services that can accommodate this. Now, a lot of us go straight into the technicals. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to throw in MongoDB inside, or maybe Postgres. In fact, I'm going to write my backend in Go because Rust is slower. You get, we start stating all these things, right? And usually from there, the interviewer is leveling us. Because remember, interviews, again, are about being interviewed. You are center stage on wherever you are set up on. And this is me going now into the actual technicals of the interview, right? I've kind of moved from the interview part, and I'm taking you all through a journey into the technical interview itself, right? When you get to that system design phase, standing out is now less about the relationships part and everything, but now about your technical skill. And one mistake we all make when doing technical interviews is we rush into the technicals. We don't understand the problem, right? And you see the way I started. I said that, oh, the STAR service with CDNs that host images. The task, build the service. What actions? They throw that to you, right? And you're like, okay, this, that. you can flip it over with something that I learned on TikTok. It's called Ricky. It's like risk, idea, KPI, investment. People don't think about it that like, what about if you ask the interviewer, can I actually throw in a service that already exists externally, right? For junior folks, you don't really need that. But for senior folks, they are looking at you like, okay, if we needed this service today, are we going to spend 6 months developing it, another 6 months testing it, and then we roll out globally? Or we could just say, oh, there's a service that handles CDNs for images like Cloudinary and all that other stuff. We pay them money, and we outsource that development effort. You might discover that you end up saving millions, right? So that risk becomes averted. You have the ideas. We could build it internally, 6 months runway, 6 months testing. We buy the product, 1 month runway, we're good to go. They're already a production level service. What KPIs do we need? Well, if we go with the first one, we go with this. The second one, we go with this. What investments? You could say, oh, this will cost $1 million. This will cost 100 hours, or rather, 12 months of developer efforts. It would involve 4 people on the team. Average developer salary is 100K. Now we're looking at about maybe 800K a year with like 200K difference. But 1 month runway, 12-month runway, you see the difference, right? So you take an idea that was ambiguous and then you make it make a lot more sense for the interviewer. They already know how to build it technically. I can tell you for sure. But I'm making these notes because I know some of us are a bit more experienced technically. But understanding how to convey impact of the way our decision process goes is where that senior level then drops. Because once you get there, again, everyone is technically sound for them to have been moving up to that level. What then matters more is your acumen and the way you think about things. So now that we've talked about that, let's go back to the system design part, right? For the senior folks, you'll already know how to figure that out. But that business acumen comes in. For the part that we all know, the system design aspect, which is the whiteboarding that we all know, is kind of where you stand out past the lead code. Because the lead code is just a screening exercise, right? They have 1,000 people coming in. They're not looking to interview 1,000 people. They're not looking to look through 1,000 resumes. So what they do is they basically blast all of you with lead code and hacker rank questions, and then the top 10%, they just take them out and drop them into interviews. For junior developer roles, that's how it is, right? And usually that's where your lead code comes in. I don't need to explain much there because, again, if you're smart enough to get past the lead codes, there's really nothing else. And that part, no interview or no keynote is going to solve that problem for you. You're just going to have to sit down and do the work for lead codes. But once you get to that whiteboarding session, again, I've moved past the phone screens. I've moved past the technical behavioral questions. Now we're actually in the technical interview, right? So now this is where your technical experience and all the things you've done and all the projects you've built, they all come to light, right? This is the runway. This is the final stage interview, right? Now, when you get there, you're going to have to understand let's say 3 things. The first one is that Ricky thing, right? You can use the STAR approach or you can use the Ricky approach to communicate the problem. The interviewer will give you the situation and the task. You will come up with the actions to build it and the results. If you are going for a senior role or a mid-level role, you're kind of using the Ricky. That's the risk, the idea, the KPIs to achieve that goal, and the investments, right? Because usually from there, once you move it to those mid-level and senior roles, it's really less about the technicals because everybody knows that they're technically smart. It's now more about the trade-offs with each solution, right? Now, those trade-offs for junior folks, bringing it back to the STAR approach, is then where you then have to be a bit more decisive. You might say, oh, in the case of our CDN pattern, we might say, oh, we could go with S3 for storing the images. We might put CloudFront in front. We might throw in a WAF. But the questions you didn't ask the interviewer was like, how much traffic will this service get, right? The next question is, if it's globally available, do we expect that we're going to have multiple instances of it, or we're going to have one instance of it, right? The next question is, oh, are these images going to be permissioned? Only some people can access it, only some people can't, right? The interviewer will come back and say, oh yeah, I don't think you need to focus on this. I don't think you need to do this, right? Those clarifying questions, you don't ask too many, of course, because then you bombard the interviewer with information. But you ask enough to give them an idea that, okay, you're taking a step back, you're understanding the problem, and then you're then moving forward to design your solution. And that's the biggest difference in standing out in when you then get down to the parts where your technical skill sets come out. Is that how slow do you take a step back to understand the problem before you go in and implement something? And again, that's where the experience part comes in. I personally, even though like I might be working senior, like you'll discover that it is actually very difficult to take a step back when you know a lot of technical stuff. I might be like, oh yeah, you know what? I could build like a parser for this thing, you know, this markdown thing, render it to HTML, blah, 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 all that kind of cool stuff. And someone might just go, but why not just use Atlassian, right? And you're like, it's the same thing. And that basically took out 6 months of work with just a day, right? Because it's already there. So understanding what exists, understanding the problem statements, understanding how you present that problem statement, and scoping it down to the interviewer's expectations is kind of where standing out in a technical interview then comes out. So I know I've said a lot, right? I've kind of taken you through the journey of tech behavioral questions, right? I've covered like steps for that, which is set the perception with the interviewer, you know, introduce yourself, productize yourself, build a brand around the technical skill sets, right? Explain your impact, right? And then we've now moved into the actual technical whiteboarding and design sessions where you then go from understanding to take a step back, understanding the problem statement, build a coalition, right, around the ideas you want to execute by asking the interviewer like actual technical questions to limit or expand the scope of the problem, and then you can then go further ahead and then implement whatever algorithm, technical solution, whatever design choices you choose to implement. And then from there, you get the offer, right? So I hope this has been great. That's kind of like where this kind of then stops. And then I throw it over to everyone here to ask questions. And yeah, if the moderators have 1 or 2 mics, I'd love to take questions from everyone about what we just spoke about. Thank you.
Round of applause, round of applause. All right, so questions. Anyone have any questions? Okay, Samuel.
All right, thank you very much, Emmanuel. So my question is as regards maneuvering maybe particular questions in interviews. So if you're asked a question that you don't, you have some idea of it, right? Maybe a particular tool or a particular maybe implementation, but you've not actually like maybe done some research or worked on it. How do you kind of maneuver, like present that you have heard about it since you've tried it, but you know you are not in depth in it, and still not sound like a novice?
That is a very good question, and I will take this back to my interview with AWS. When I interviewed with AWS, I remember the interviewer asked me one question. It was something about some Linux system stuff. They were like, oh, all these technical questions. We have a very slow HTTP server that is responding. We have this, that. I listed a bunch of things for him. And then he was like, oh, but like in his own solution, he would like to use this. And then he asked me, how would I use it? And I kid you not, I just went, I don't know. Like, straight up. Now, one of the beautiful things about interviews, as I always say, is that you have the opportunity to build a relationship with the person you're working with. That person is usually always, or usually most times, a bit more understanding than you of the problems you're bringing in. I mean, they've done that a couple thousand times. You're not the first guy they're meeting in an interview. If they are, they usually tell you, this is my first interview. So you are free to say, I don't know. But the caveat there is that you don't go saying, I don't know, and then you just keep it there, right? Because then the question is like, behaviorally, like, do you explore things you've not known? Because work is work. They're going to expect you to live on that. So you then go, how would you use it? And then you can then bring in a kind of short gap there of like, okay, how would you use that to solve the problem? In my own idea of something similar, which you can then list out the solutions that you think you could use, right? That's how you would solve it. And would it still apply to that? Now, it's a bit of like a thing where you turn a question that would have been, oh, you don't know about it, you turn it to a rounder session where you then try to learn from the person how they would use it. In the interview, it doesn't demonstrate that you obviously knew it, but it demonstrates that you're open to learn, right? That you have an idea of how to, because people think ability to work under pressure is just something you put on a resume. But then when you're in that interview and they ask you something you don't know, that is when you get the real idea of working under pressure. So you ask the question back, you try to learn from the interviewer, and then you make it a conversation where you then learn how they would use it, and then you could then go, okay, then I think I would use it this way, right? It doesn't work in all interviews. Some interviewers are very cut to the point. They'll be like, okay, that's fine. Some might go, okay, yeah, this is it. But the idea is that just saying you don't know is a lot better. Just keep it brief. Tell the interviewer that I'm not particularly sure about this. If you can explain to me, that's fine. But I can't really go forward with things I don't know. And trust me, working 90% of the time, nobody expects you to know everything. So that's how I go about it.
Another question? Okay.
Hi, good afternoon.
Oh, yes, good afternoon.
My name is Olaiwala Ibrahim, and my question is, okay, for example now, if I am applying for a junior role, so there's a usual problem with junior developers, which I also have. Like, I have less experience. So how will I be able to maneuver that in order to get the job? For example, let's say I'm applying for a farm job or a startup.
Okay, very good question. And definitely one that I'll spend a couple minutes on. So one of the problems with experience is you need experience to get experience, right? Usually we all get our first jobs somewhere outside school. Some of us wait till we're, in our fourth year for IT, etc. I'll give you a personal example, right? When I was in school in my first year, I did not have a job, right? I'd been writing code before I joined Unilag some years back, but I'd never done anything production ready. What I did with a friend was we're like, oh, you know what? Let's run a startup. What were we going to do? We bought a Raspberry Pi, and we were like, we're going to build the next Spotify. Very ambitious, but very foolish, right? So basically, we sat down, we built that thing, right? The funny thing was that we actually ended up launching it at a party, right? A friend took it, we took the prototype, we launched it somewhere. It worked out, we discovered a couple things. We were like, oh yeah, you know what? When you're streaming music, you tend to have issues with bandwidth, right? You then begin to understand a lot of things about how processing is for media and all those other kind of things, etc. The summary of the story is that was my first actual production experience running anything I've ever built. This was me moving from Hello World to actually having practical experience. When I went for my first interview, and the first job I ever had was at iCube Labs, there in Yaba. I literally went in there and I was like, okay, I don't have any experience, but this is the one thing I built. And I listed it on my resume and I left it there. I got the job, right? The idea is that experience isn't always sometimes technical, which is the one part I try to start off with the interview, right? Everybody knows that everybody can learn. We're all smart people. We all got into school for a reason, right? There are people that are obviously smarter. There are people that are obviously better. Usually, by luxury of life, chance of being born, because, some of us, we just have our things in life, right? But the idea is that life is equitable in a way that the experiences are all around you. If you choose to build a product today, you spend a couple hours on it, day by day, you keep on hacking at it, you will gain experience. It might not be the experience you think of working in a company. It might not earn you money, but that's experience in itself. Now, as a junior developer, no one expects you to be able to build the next Spotify. Again, very foolish, by the way. But you move from the idea of understanding what people look for when they are trying to hire people, which is why, again, I always say technical interviews are less about the technicals, right? The drive I had then probably is why they hired me. I would never know, right? But if I learned the technicals, I would obviously be less drawn back if they gave me something weird to do, oh, we needed you to go speak to a client, which actually did happen at the end of the day. I moved from being an engineer to being more someone that would deal with clients if the MD guy was busy or something like that, right? And that kept me my job. In fact, it even earned me a better work balance because when the CEO came in, he was like, he's been here for a week, but he admires the fact that I'm always helping around. Now, I could have been the smartest person in the office, but I definitely couldn't have earned his respect because of just being smart. So that's why I'm trying to set the expectations on standing out and success in technical interviews, that it is less about the technicals, right? Building experience is obviously important. Build experience with your peers if you are junior, to answer the question directly. Don't wait for a company to give you an offer, right? You have the opportunity to use Google, GitHub, run a MOOC on Udacity, do all their lab store projects. You learn something along the way. It's going to be frustrating. Everybody feels dumb at some point. But you build that experience there. But the extra part I'm trying to add in is that as a junior developer, no one expects you to know things. So you have a luxury there because just being you, than say when you then get to mid-level roles where they're like, okay, fine, now we actually need you to know the stuff you're building because we can't make excuses for you anymore, right? And that's when your technical skill set comes in. But if you're already easy to work with, and I can tell you for sure, I have somebody in my company that is a mid-level developer. Like, she's not definitely the best technically, but personality-wise, she exemplified everything that people loved about working with her, that even when HR came and they were like, you know what, we feel this person isn't performing technically, everybody on the team was like, go away, you know, like, we don't want you to piss this person off. Like, and the person stayed, they passed probation, right? And they've gone on to become more technically, like, better, right? Because of that confidence and support that the team provides, right? And that's when you then discover that being technically competent doesn't always work for you when you're a junior. When you're a junior, people understand. They know you don't know or as much as you're supposed to. But they are willing to support you based on the kind of character and perseverance that you bring in. Again, relating to my first job, right? I definitely wasn't the smartest person there, right? But just because I was willing to help out, I kept a positive smile, I kept it going. That mattered more. From there, when you get to your mid-levels, you can worry about being the smartest and most technical person if you don't have the capacity to build that. But leverage strengths more personality-wise as a junior developer, build on your technicals, and like you always grow from there.
All right, so any more questions? Okay. Okay, so we have to.
Okay, hi, good morning. My name
Hello.
is Anthony. I want to ask a question, kind of building up on the last question, but more specifically tuned towards system design. Especially with building systems at scale. So you might maybe you might have used a cache or something like that in a previous project that you've worked on. But when it comes to things like maybe load balancers, message queues, streams, those kind of things, you might not really have worked with these things before. System design interview, you should know that these are things that are used and that you should probably use in your interview. So how do you strike a balance between using knowledge that you have, things that you already are comfortable with, and things that you might not really have explored? Maybe you know that they exist theoretically, but yeah, you think that they should be expected in that interview.
Okay, that is a very good question, and I am looking for something that might solve that for you. And I'll give you a personal experience of what that's been like for me. Okay, so let me start off with the actual solution. So one of the easiest ways to learn things is to learn from scratch. You know, like I was very Linux focused. Like if you had any issues with your Android or computer, like I knew how to fix it. I would mod my Android. I would do a lot of stuff. I once bricked my laptop, started my phone, downloading gaps. I'm not sure a lot of you know XDA. Back in the day, they were like this very popular, like Android modding stuff. But the point I'm trying to say is that like when it comes down to all those technical solutions and understanding, like to get your question properly, contrasting what is a good solution, what is not a good solution, what's the best solution. the best way to learn is actually just to try building it from scratch. Like for example, a lot of us might not know DHCP or stuff like that. Like years back, I would just try it out. I would build a domain interface on Linux. I would get an open source tool called Kia. It was like an open source DHCP server. You then begin to test things. You learn a lot more just seeing stuff break. You try and fix it. You Google a lot of stuff. If you want to spend time, especially on the part you said about queues and databases, there's a software platform called CodeCrafter, solutions on like GitHub. I'll send the link to Olayinka so that like, everyone can get it. But that's one way to actually learn the trade-offs of platforms, just understanding how they work from the ground up. In your note about the junior developer part, that's the easiest way to learn. Just build it from scratch. Whilst I tried it, I tried databases, I tried Redis, I tried the DHCP servers. I've done HTTP servers. Usually all of that you learn in computer science classes. But the idea is that every time you try to learn something a bit different, right? Like for example, when I go into AWS, I had never worked with networking like production-wise. But some of the experiences I had with, okay, fine, like, you know, what a TCP packet is and how that works and what the data fields are, and understanding how the struct is, like when you think of all those things, they're basically structs in the Linux kernel that it then puts in there. You begin to like disambiguate or de-abstract a lot of all those simplified diagrams, and you begin to understand how they actually exist in code. But you'll never get there if you never start from like the ground level. So to answer your question quite briefly is that the easiest way to learn the trade-offs with systems is to try building them yourself and just seeing how far you go up the scale before you just lose out technically. You learn a lot during the process, but the good part is that at least now, even if you didn't learn a lot, during the interview, you have something to talk about. And that's more than enough as a junior developer.